What's up everybody, Gundam Flexing here, and today I'll be going over a quick beginner's Gunpla tutorial on how to weather your model. This is going to be a basic guide on how to dry brush and chip paint with a sponge and a paintbrush. Keep in mind that there are plenty of methods for dry brushing and chip painting, so please leave any comments below if you have any tips and tricks and help answer any questions for other users. I'll also be leaving an instruction guide at the bottom description for you to read, reference, and for me to update if something can be improved. What you see in front of you is what you need for this tutorial, and refer to the video description for the complete list. Number 1. A sponge. There are a variety of sponges and tools you can use. You can use cotton balls, dishwashing sponge, and even metal wool. Today, I'm using a small, porous sponge. Different sponges can produce different styles of chipping, so I recommend staying with a sponge similar to foam and then exploring other types to see the different effects on the paint. Number 2. A short, flathead paintbrush. Like the sponge, you can use whatever paintbrush you like. Just remember, it has to be flat. In this video, I'll be using the Tamiya weathering brush. This brush is specifically marketed to weathering and is available in either soft or hard brush. Each pack comes with a big and small brush head. And you don't need a specialty brush for dry brushing. Any brush with a short flat head would definitely suffice. Number 3. Paper towels. This is critically important to wipe off any excess paint. Number 4. A top coat. A top coat is critically important for this tutorial. A top coat is actually a must for most Gunpla builders. Top coating your final product gives you professional finish and it will go a very long way for this tutorial. Number 5. Paint. For today, I'll be using the Tamiya acrylic paint. The colors I'd like to use is flat aluminum and whole red. I think these colors would greatly complement my example model in this tutorial and really show off the effects of the weathering. Number 6. Enamel thinner. This is used to remove any mistakes. You can accompany the enamel thinner with cotton swabs in order to gently remove any errors. Remember, plastic is very weak and vulnerable against enamel thinners, so you will have to use a very discriminate amount and apply a gloss top coat on your model first before beginning this tutorial. Number 7. Finally, you will need your Gunpla model. For today's model, I'll be using the high-grade Buster Gundam's leg. Again, considering the colors I'd be using, I think the dry brush and chipping effects would show up very well on this limb. Now that you have all your supplies ready to go, let us begin the instructions. The first thing we're going to do is the chipping effect with the sponge. And we want to do the chipping effect before we apply the silver paint because I want the silver paint to be over the whole red. And in order to do the chipping effect, you will obviously have to have your sponge, and this is it. Small, porous, like this, just like foam. I'm going to use the Tamiya acrylic paint, whole red. I'm going to have a paper towel here to wipe off the excess paint from the sponge. And this is the high-grade Buster Gundam leg for this demonstration. We take a look at the leg. You can see it has multiple colors. We have a dark green color base at the base of its feet. We have an orange kneecap. And we also have like some sort of gunmetal gray along the edges here, his back, and on the opposite side. Because whole red is already a dark color, it may not show up very well on the darker colors like the green here. It may show up very well on the orange and maybe not so much on the gunmetal color here. But for the light beige color, which is pretty much the dominant color of this leg, it will show up very well. Now I've already shaken up my Tamiya color pretty well. You want to make sure you get some sort of mixer, or if you're ghetto like me, you could just use some chopsticks from some convenience store and just mix it. I already know mine is very well mixed, so I'm just going to give it a little shake like this. I'm going to uncap it. And because we shook it up, we're going to have paint at the top of the cap. So this is the sponge. You're just going to grab the sponge, squeeze it a little bit, and get the paint from the cap, such as this. Now the paint's already dry, but it's still a little bit wet, so you're going to use this paper towel and you're going to start dabbing the excess paint. And as you can see, from left to right, we begin removing a lot of the paint. and this is a good thing. So kind of effect you want is somewhere around the right side. You don't want to have too much paint like on the left side. And the reason being is because you're able to go over and use this method as many times as possible. And it's always better to go over and underachieve to achieve your results than to apply way too much paint and then you have to use some sort of corrective measure, some sort of enamel thinner, and clean it all up. So again, around here is the kind of the amount of paint you want on your sponge. I'm going to start at the bottom of the feet and I'm going to move all the way up. And because again, the dark green color may hide the acrylic whole red color, it's okay, but we want to get the bottom base of the feet. And the story I'm trying to shoot for this tutorial is a moderately weathered Gundam, and something not too crazy, like he's been exposed to the elements for years and years and years and has been abandoned on some lonely planet, just like this. So we're going to just apply it on the corners and edges, like that. And if you feel that your paint is drying out or you need more, you could always go back to the cap or even back to the paper towel, but maybe the paint has been dry depending on the time you left it. I'm also going to attack the edges and the corners on top of his feet base. I'll attack the corners there. Nothing too crazy. Just dab along where you feel it is necessary. Like that. There we go. So this looks like a very nice result. And because we're dabbing, you can see that there's a lot of even spread of the color. And if we wanted to smear, it will give it a smearing effect. And I'm going to just show you all what it looked like here. If I have enough, I'm just going to grab it and smear like that. So I'm going to have to get a tad bit more paint. Tad bit more paint. This, I'm just going to smear it. It's a little bit difficult to see because of the color, so we're going to smear the top portion as we move up. So I think I achieved some sort of good effect on the chipping along the leg. And I've even applied some on the side by my fingers by complete accident. But let us continue. We're going to go over this portion next. And for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to remove his leg and do it separately. Careful not to get some on your fingers too, because you may accidentally apply it where you don't want to. And again, on the top, I'm going to just as a demonstration show you a smear like that. So that's definitely not what we want. I'll try to absorb that. Can't. It's all good though. And we're going to get the corners on the back. Corners on the back. And there you go. That looks very nice, especially from a distance. I like the darker corners here and not so much there. So I'm just going to smear it a little bit, hopefully. Like that. There it is. Not too much. Now we're going to go to the main body of the leg. We're going to apply it to the edges, the turns, and corners. It off, something like this. So off camera, I may go over this a couple more times, but here is the feet with the smear. Now it's just to show the effects, but you can see how even how even the dabbing is, and how even the color is applied throughout the model. Just keep in mind that this was a smear just for the tutorial too. And here we have the upper part of the leg. That's evenly across applied, like that. Off camera, I may apply just a little bit more, but the next step we're going to do is apply the dry brushing technique with the aluminum/silver paint. As the name implies, dry brushing will just use a dry brush in contact with the paint on your Gunpla piece. This is the Tamiya's weathering brush. Not very necessary, any brush would do. And this is the paint. And because I already used my ghetto chopsticks I got at those Japanese convenience stores, I already know my paint's already well mixed. Again, I'm going to shake it up, open the cap, and just like the sponge, we're going to use the paint from the cap on the brush. Just dab it like this. And we have a paper towel, and I'm just going to wipe off any excess paint. And as you can see from the left to the right, we barely have any paint. And that's the effects we want because again, we could go over this as many times as necessary. My current plan of attack for this tutorial is to apply the silver along the edges of his feet, apply it sporadically and evenly on the corners of the beige color, pretty much the primary colors of his leg. I'll apply it on the corners of the kneecap, and I think it would look very well against the gunmetal color here. So I'm definitely going to get the gunmetal corners there and all throughout, all around. So let us begin. With the dry brush, you already have the paint, and if I could hopefully get a good capture of this, I'm just going to apply it by gently brushing over that on the Gunpla model. And we want to apply it very lightly because if you didn't apply enough, you could always go back and apply more. Now we're going to go to the rest of the body. Going to get a little bit more paint, and you will have to wait a couple minutes for the dry paint to actually dry. It doesn't take too long, only several minutes. And working our way from the bottom to the top, we're going to apply it very gently along the corners here, at least for the beige colors. And then when it comes down to the kneecap, I feel like I'm going to apply the most on the corners here and on the outer edges of the gunmetal. Here we go, let's move this down. And just brush. So the kneecap looks fantastic. And now we're going to go on to the gunmetal. So I'm just going to get a little bit more paint. Dab some on. And let's start with this side. I want to get the corners. There you go, it shows up very well, especially against that color. There it is, and if I want to, I'm going to apply it down the leg. So overall, this looks incredible. Now, the whole red might have been a tad bit much, too much rusting effect, but it's still good. And we're going to put it back together with the feet. Now, this is not the final product yet. The final product will be when we apply the top coat. And when you apply the top coat, you definitely want to give it a little bit more dry time, because if not, and you grab your product, you will smear the paint. Like, you will smear it and it will suck. So give it plenty enough time to rest, apply a top coat evenly, and I will see you in a couple seconds. In conclusion, this is the final result of the chipping effects and the dry brush method. On the right side is the leg we used in the video, and on the left side is something I did off camera. All I did was apply a lot more whole red and used a lot more dry brush, and to be honest, I'm liking this one a lot more. Keep in mind that the name of the game is consistency, so how you apply the effects on one piece is generally how you want to apply it to the rest of the model. You could always go over and apply the method as many times as you see fit, so it's better to do that method than to overshoot and overachieve your results, which will force you to go back and make the corrections. As you can see, this is a very simple yet very powerful technique. Any skilled Gunpla builders could do it, to include beginners like myself. If you happen to mess up, go ahead using enamel thinners and just apply it on the cotton swab and gently, and I do mean very gently, just swab away the paint. Enamel thinners can weaken plastic, so if you don't want to use that, try rubbing alcohol. If you want to take the final product to the next level, you're also able to use the Tamiya weathering set. I will link the video, or my tutorial video, in the description below. And before you even begin this tutorial, you could even add a little bit more battle authenticity to the piece by using a coarse sand stick or sandpaper, somewhere around the lines of 400 and below, and just add physical scratches and physical marks and start knowing the sharp ends of the product, of the model. But that's all I have for this video, guys. I hope you found it helpful and informative. If you have any questions or comments, please post it down in the section below. And if you have any tips and tricks, go ahead and let me know, and I'll update the video description as I see fit. As always, I appreciate you all for watching, and then I will see you all next time. Peace out.